Hi, this is Reen, the author, creator, and founder of I Am Woman, along with co-founders Frankie and Tommy. And today I am going to continue the series that I've started regarding schizophrenia, an uphill battle in a downward spiral. The reason why I'm talking about that, although I am an advocate for against violence and abuse, is because I wanted to go into detail about how I am able to be here today, even though I was a victim of violence and abuse, and other things were going on in my life along with that. I had my own situations that I was dealing with, depression, along with that, being assaulted, and at the same time, my son was afflicted with and diagnosed with schizophrenia. And my whole reason for all of this is for a message of hope. I am on here to talk to you if you're suffering through anything, whether it be the violence and abuse or with other challenges that you may be facing, which could be your finances, your marriage, or an illness of yourself or someone loved one. So I just want you to know that I'm living proof that you can get through it. You just have to have hope. So I want to continue on with the series. I've already filmed 2 other parts. This is part 3. So I have allergies. So just so you know, that I scratch my nose, just all over. I constantly am feeling itchy, and it is because of my allergies. I do have allergy medication, and but actually just started it. So I want to read something from the book that I'm writing. Not only were we concerned about my son's best interest, but also about our own mental and emotional stability. I was in a battle without any ammunition, and I had no knowledge about the position of the enemy. That is why I began to fight back by educating myself to gain control of the enemy. And in parentheses, I put there, the enemy is schizophrenia. The best advocates for those who are affected are those who love him, or them, meaning your loved one. I realized early on that I would be speaking to many professionals on my son's behalf. So in order to have an intelligent conversation, I would have to do my homework. There were times, more often than not, when I would have to insist, persist, be adamant and assertive just to be heard, sometimes even aggressive, because we're dealing with professionals. This is what they're educated in. This is their expertise. And if I just come in there saying, well, I'm not really sure what's going on. Well, I educated myself. I learned their terms, the medical terms. I learned the safe levels of medication. I learned about the medication. I was able to speak to them in a way that they understood I knew what I was talking about. So that is what I had to do. I had to educate myself. I had to really figure out what it is I'm dealing with here. After I came to the realization that there was a mental health issue, I was in denial, like I said, for 2 years, with no help for my son. I didn't take him to the doctor. I didn't seek out any kind of help because I believed it was alcohol. The alcohol that I'm talking about is what he used to self-medicate. Once he started to realize, excuse me, I have my allergies. Once he started to realize that his thinking pattern was changing. So he understands, they understand there's something going on with them. So if you're hateful to them, and I say them, I'm speaking of those that are afflicted. If you are ignoring them, if you are any type of other behavior that you won't treat anybody else with, they get it. They understand that you're being hateful. They understand that you're ignoring. They understand all of that. It is not their fault. And that is the thing that bothers me the most when someone who is afflicted with a mental health illness is treated differently than they would treat somebody that does not have it. I do not like it. That's why it's important to be educated about it. They get it. They know that you're mistreating them. They know that you might not want to speak to them. Maybe you have fear of them. Maybe you aren't sure about it, so you feel at risk. Well, my whole point in talking to you about this is that I don't want this video to be in vain. I want to have some type of education. I always make this disclaimer. I am not a doctor. I'm not an expert. I'm not even a specialist, but I am an experienced mother who has gone through over 20 years it's like almost 25 years of, no, 24 years of helping someone who is afflicted with the illness. It is difficult. It is a difficult situation to be in as a family member. Number one, my difficulty and in my position is different from my other son, his siblings' position. Mine is, I gave birth to him. He's my son and I love him. And I don't care what anybody does or says. I will love him. I will never turn my back on him. I will not put him in any type of home. He is going to have the best quality of life as long as I'm alive and living. And as far as my other sons, his siblings, they feel the same way. They love him and they want him to have the best quality of life, but their position is as a sibling. It's not as a parent. So sometimes they might lose patience, and sometimes they may, I don't know, I feel like sometimes treat them a little differently than they might somebody who isn't afflicted, but we have conversations about that, and I talk to them about that, and I make sure that they understand that this is not helpful to the situation. What he needs is family support. He needs to know that he's just a part of this family as though there was no affliction, no diagnosis. So if you get anything out of this video, please understand. And if you have fear, it's because you don't understand the illness. It's as simple as that. You need to get educated about it, seek out some type of information to help you better understand. I'm really speaking to those who have family members that are afflicted with it. I don't have anything to say for those that don't even know anything about it and don't have any affliction with it or anything like that. So I wanted to talk to you about one particular occasion. I'm trying to keep this hopefully by no longer than 20 minutes. Trying to make it shorter and shorter each time because I know everybody's attention is probably within the 10-minute gap if you have an interest in it. If you don't have an interest in it, you won't even watch it or you turn it off within the first 30 seconds. Okay. So, and my point is trying to give information. On one particular a time, there was an outburst of anger and being very physical. My son has never been physical towards any of us, none of us, no one. And but when he's on his own, he will show signs of anger. And I'm reading something here really quickly because I don't want to miss anything. All right. So, I wanted to talk about this early in the series. At that point, when my son was first diagnosed, within the first year or two, we did not realize that he needed help as far as an assistant or a care provider, someone that would be there 24 hours. This particular time, he is under IHSS, which in-home, I don't know. I can't remember at this moment. But anyway, I will remember. Um, and he is in a kind of on a special category because he has to be monitored 24 hours and for his own safety and for others. But this particular time, I was at work, his brothers were at work or gone from the home, and he was at home alone, which, you know, anybody in their at 19 years old should be able to be left alone, or 20. But this particular day, we came home to what looked like a massacre. There was blood on every wall in his bedroom. This was all contained to one room. Things were broken, turned upside down. The television was on the ground. We didn't know what happened. The thing is that he was not home once we were aware that there was a problem. We called the police because we didn't know if he was injured. We're assuming he's injured. There's blood everywhere. And so the police came, assessed the area, and stated that it looks like a massacre had taken place in the bedroom. But there was no one there. It was just the room that was empty with no one there. He was nowhere in the house. He was gone. Apparently, he had left the home. And I believe, now it's been many years since this had happened, but I believe he ended up coming home and was taken by the police to the hospital. I almost said the name, but I don't really want to do that. The name of the hospital, the hospital is where he was admitted. No, he was not admitted. There's so many incidents of him being in the hospital, outpatient, inpatient, and so I have to get my facts straight. But at this particular time, they took him to make sure that he was not injured. And when they took him, they told me, I was so distraught and not thinking, not doing probably really what I should have done. I was emotional. I was like scared, and so all those types of things. They told me that they would send him home with a taxi. And I said, okay, because I believed he was capable of doing that at that time. Well, he ended up coming home, and I'm like, what are they doing? Why are they sending him home? He should be admitted, this place. I just couldn't understand what was going on. He came in. He didn't look like he was injured. And I called the hospital. I was irate. What are you thinking? Well, they told me that he had a very small cut that didn't even require stitches. I'm like, how did all this blood get here? And why would the police mistake it for being look like a massacre had taken place in there? So, he came home. We're all emotionally drained and worn out. Well, come to find out later, what looked like blood all over the room was actually cranberry juice. There was blood in the room. There was. But he had, I'm assuming, either a glass or the bottle of cranberry juice and just threw it because he was angry. But even though it wasn't as serious as what it looked, although it was pretty serious because he had thrown, I don't know, we were getting ready to paint. I remember that now. And there was a can of paint in there. He threw that paint through the wall. From one room to the other, the paint went through that wall. That's the force and power that he used in with his strength. So now we understand what we're dealing with and what we're up against. It was a time of instability. He hated the fact that his thinking pattern was changing, and he was very angry. He never, like I said, and I want to make sure you understand, he never, ever to this day has ever tried to hurt any of us. His was just anger. Now, if we were in the way, we could have gotten hurt or injured, but we weren't home. And so he hasn't caused us any kind of risk to our own personal being. But he was very angry, afraid, and scared. That was why it was so important for me to figure out, how do I help my son? He has to have some type of peace. I need to make sure that I understand, because I have what it takes to do this. I know that I'm capable of helping him because I have everything that it takes mentally to help my son. This is the reason why it's very important to understand what you're dealing with. But listen, this is today. I don't know what today is. Okay, it's July 26, 2019. All of this started happening years ago. In I believe, let me make sure of the year, because it's been many years. I believe I said it in my last video, and I believe I said 1993 is when this all started happening. So from 93 to 2019, things have changed. My son is doing well, and there's peace in our home. There are times of instability and there are times of stability, but nothing is like it used to be. So that's why I want you to hang on to hope. Don't waste time like I did. Help yourself. Now, all of this does have to do with what I am woman. And the reason why I'm saying that is because I had to help my son and try to help myself as I was being assaulted on a weekly basis, sometimes daily. And I managed to hang on to hope, and here I am today. I have peace. I always say this every video. You have a divine birthright to have peace in your life. So if anything in this video helps you, let it be to understand what you're dealing with and to never, ever, ever lose hope. Because things change. Things don't stay the same. And so there's a season for everything. There's a reason why I went through what I went through, although I didn't understand it. I understand now that I went through it, but I'm able to help others. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be obedient to the calling. And I'm going to raise my voice against violence and abuse, and raise my voice for mental health. And there is not enough help for mental health. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I'll pick up again, and will be part 4. And subscribe to my channel and share it with anybody that you think might need to hear anything that might, impact their life, and help me help others by subscribing and give me a thumbs up. I would appreciate it. And I appreciate you for taking the time to listening to what experiences I've had and how it might help you. God bless you.